Hi, this is Nicole McCaskill, Community Learning Coordinator for Equipped. Thank you for participating in the upcoming recorded content. At the end of the session, you will click a link to complete an evaluation. The evaluation allows you to receive a DCD-EE training certificate. You will be asked to agree to an online learning honor code during the evaluation process. The content takes about 50 minutes to view, and the evaluation should take about 5 minutes. Be prepared to save or screenshot your training certificate after submitting your evaluation. To avoid technical issues, we strongly recommend saving the certificate instead of printing a hard copy right now. If you have any issues with the certificate, you can email Equipped for assistance.
Are working on the poll, and thank you and good evening. Welcome to our time together tonight. We're going to introduce ourselves in a minute, but the first thing we want to do is just thank you for being here and giving us an hour of your precious personal time. One of the things we know is that in general, the childcare community, when they're doing things outside of work hours, are not being reimbursed for that time. And so if you are somebody who is doing this on your own time, a special thank you to you for giving it, for volunteering to learn more and to be with us tonight, and know that we recognize that that is one of the many things that the childcare community is expected to just do. And it's something we want to work on. It's something that is that we want to change in our state to make all of your time be reimbursed when it's related to work, which this absolutely is. So thank you. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself first. My name is Ennis Baker, and I have been what I say is I'm a social worker specializing in early childhood mental health. And I've been doing that since I was 10, which is the first time when somebody paid me to watch their baby. And I didn't call myself that then. Back then, I thought I was just loving holding babies in my arms, but little did I know it was going to be a lifetime of that. And so I am so grateful to be able to bring my experience to the table today and all the different roles I've been able to play in the early childhood community, including home visiting, but starting with being a toddler teacher. If I hadn't started there, I wouldn't be where I am today. It changed everything for me about my outlook about what children need, and I can't tell you how important that was for me becoming an early childhood mental health professional. As I also include on here, I am currently directing a project that is about promoting trauma-informed practice. And for those of you who know Jennifer Anderson, she is in our project and is an infant toddler specialist in Guilford, who we have been very grateful to work with, and I hope that you'll have that opportunity to work with her as well. So I will let Debbie tell you about her.
Hey everybody, good evening. So I'm Debbie. I am a psychologist by trade, but as Ennis said, you know, I'm the only non-teacher in my family. Mom, dad, brother, sister, daughter-in-law, everybody but me is a teacher. But I've been around children and my entire life, and been in North Carolina working with children and their families, young kids, since 1993. So I've been doing this for a long time, and during that time had incredible experiences being able to do community-based therapy. I've been a developmental day director and a teacher in a developmental day classroom. I've also been a mental health consultant in Alamance County, and I've done incredible years for teachers trainings. I've done many of those, and just love being able to work and support teachers and all of the impact you have on children and their families. And now I'm at the CDSA, so the Children's Developmental Services Agency, working with infants and toddlers. So that's where I am now. When we go ahead and go, have we closed the poll yet?
Is that me?
No.
Yeah, so I can share the results now if you're ready, Debbie.
Yep, go ahead. So what do you enjoy most about your work? So relationships with children and coworkers and team, and knowing what you do matters. So absolutely, those are really important things. But it looks like when you look across all of those different things, there's lots of different things. Lots of different things, and that just means that we have lots of different ways that we get fulfillment in our work, that it isn't just one thing, but there's lots of different things going on there. Ennis, did you have anything that you saw there that you wanted to particularly comment on?
I'm just so glad to see so many people finding multiple things that they enjoy, because what we all know is this is not work you go into to make money, right? And so if you're not finding things in your work that give you a reason to go back the next day and to stay and deal with the hard parts, then it's not where you should be, right? And so what this reflects is how committed each of you are to finding the good stuff and appreciating it. And especially, I love that so many of you said knowing what you do matters, because it matters more than you get credit for. It matters more than your paycheck says. Yeah. And we know that, and we are working very hard to spread that word across the land for others who may not recognize that. So thank you for sharing that with us. And we really appreciate the opportunity to kind of start with the positive tonight.
Yeah. And while we're going through, you can put the next slide. But while we're going through, make sure that you guys are paying attention to what your body needs. If you need to get up and move around a little bit, if you need to readjust, go ahead and do that. So make sure you're taking care of yourself. This is not a need to sit 6 inches away from the screen kind of time, if that's not where you need to be right now. So make sure you do that. And one of the reasons that we need to make sure that we do that is because of the stress in our jobs. When we have the ability to take care of ourselves, it's really important that we do that. Prior to COVID-19, early childhood educators, there's enough stress. And not having enough money to do what we want to do, and not having enough materials and all supports, all these different things. And then COVID happened. And not only are you having to address all of your own concerns, concerns about your safety, your family's safety, but also when you are working back with the children and families, you're getting their stress as well. When families are feeling stressed about, do I leave my child at childcare? Do I not? Do I, is my job going to be here tomorrow? Well, those kind of things, all those same things you guys are going through, that they're going through. So you're kind of getting it doubled. You're getting your own, and you're getting it from other places. And then you have the kids. And so those of you who are in the classrooms with kids right now, those kids are not in their normal routines. And so those are the kinds of things that you're dealing with on top of just the normal early childhood stuff. We have our second poll now. Nicole, can you bring that?
And this poll gives us a chance we just ask you to focus on the positive of what's the good parts at work. But we also, as Debbie just described, want to acknowledge how hard the work is you do every day. And check in with you about how that's feeling at this point. So you'll see when the poll comes up, what we're going to ask you is, how are you feeling right now? Most of the time, would you say you feel like you're surviving, but barely? Surviving, somewhere in between surviving and thriving? Or one of the things to think about with the word thriving is everybody has their own definition of thriving. So it's not Facebook thriving where everything's perfect and everybody's smiling and they're always at the beach, right? It's really just feeling like, things aren't perfect, things are hard, but I can honestly say I feel like I'm doing the best I can and I'm thriving, which is very different from I'm doing the best I can, but I'm barely surviving.
Mhm. I do like the fact that the first answer was thriving. Yay! But knowing that that's not everybody, so.
Right, that's right. And thank you for being honest. The good thing about polls is nobody knows who said what, but it
That's
gives you a sense of how the audience is doing. And so thank you for thinking about that and sharing that with us. It says there's only 2 who haven't voted, and I bet that's us. So I think that's everybody. You can share the results. Cool, Nicole. Thank you. So what this tells us, I asked this question across the state, and actually you guys have more thriving going on in this group than any other group I've had. So congratulations for you. What that means is at least a few of you are feeling like, yeah, I'm figuring this thing out. And I'm not just surviving, I'm really feeling like I'm taking care of myself and a lot of other people at the same time. So thank you. But that is something we need to be constantly thinking about is how are the people around us doing? Are they thriving? Are they getting what they need? And how can those of us who are having an easier time this week or today help other people more? And one of the things we want to say to you today is we're not going to have the time that we wish we did to answer your questions about the topic we're going to talk about. But one of the things we want you to really focus on first when you're thinking about what families need and how to talk to families about hard things is that you need to be taking care of yourself to be ready for those conversations. And so we're going to ask you for a minute to do 2 minutes to really think about the role that mindfulness might play for you around that. So let's listen to this video. And you know what? We talked about this and then I didn't check the little box. Sorry. There's a magical box you have to check if you want people to get to hear your videos, and I didn't do it. Here we go. Apologize, y'all. So this is from the Headspace app or the Headspace videos on YouTube, and see what you think.
It's quite normal when we start to meditate for the mind to jump around all over the place. We might find it tends to chase after all the little things, to be constantly moving about, from the present to the past to the future, in fact, to rarely be still at all. Fortunately, the mind can be tamed, not by forcing it to stop or trying to make it sit still. We don't want to trap it. That would just stir it up and create even more movement. But by training the mind, having an awareness of when our attention has wandered off, and gently bringing it back with a kind and friendly hand. In this way, the mind slowly becomes a little less restless. It also becomes more comfortable with this idea of sitting still. In fact, it might even come to enjoy it. This analogy for the mind has been around for thousands of years. Thankfully, so has the knowledge that, with time and practice, we can learn to train this monkey.
Okay, so that is giving you a little taste of what we want to think about doing before we have conversations with parents that we're nervous about and worried about getting right. And really before we do anything that we want to be really present for, is to think about how to tame that monkey mind. So let's practice for a minute, get comfortable, and we're just going to breathe together for a minute to try to steady our nervous systems a little bit.
Hi, and welcome to Headspace. So no matter what's going on in your life right now, no matter how many thoughts are racing around your mind, no matter how the body's feeling, just take a moment to sit down and take a big deep breath, breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth. As you breathe in, a sense of taking in fresh air, the lungs expanding. As you breathe out, a sense of letting go of any stress in the body, in the mind, just feeling the muscles soften and relax. And close your eyes if you'd like to. One more, breathing deeply in through the nose and out through the mouth. And just take a moment to pause, allow the thoughts to come and go, and then just gently opening the eyes again.
Thank you for taking a minute to do that with us. Mindfulness is a very powerful strategy. And as I hope you just experienced, in only 1 minute, with those 3 deep breaths, you can really get your heart rate down. You can get yourself to a place where you can approach hard things in a better way. So if you haven't already discovered the power of breathing, or you've only used it with kids, which many of us have done, we've taught kids it for years, but we have not practiced it for ourselves. So think about how you can do more deep breathing at work, before work, after work, to calm yourself down and give yourself a minute. And those few minutes you can catch in between things. So now we're going to talk about the subject at hand of really thinking about when you're worried about a child, and how would you approach that conversation with the parent? What I always say is that most of us went into the world of early childhood not to work with the parents, but to work with the kids. And we found out the hard way that they're a package deal, that you don't get to just work with the kids. And especially when you're worried about a child, that partnership with a parent is so crucial to figuring out where to go next. So the question I always ask is, why should the teacher have to be the one to have the hard conversation? Why us? And if we had more time, I would let you answer that question, because many people think, oh, just let the doctor do that. When he goes to his physical, the doctor will cover it. I don't have to worry about it. But what we know is that teachers and parents have unique things in common, that they both care deeply for the children that they have in common. Pediatricians, very few, I would say, care deeply for the children in their practice. They just don't see them enough. They don't know them well. They don't have the kind of relationships that teachers do. And what we know is that teachers see children in a very unique setting. They see them in a space with other kids their age only. So parents will often say, oh, I see them with other kids all the time. But what they mean is at church or in the neighborhood or with their cousins, where there are not 10 two-year-olds in the same room. And so they never really get to see what we see is, number one, what's typical for a 2-year-old, and number two, how this particular child is doing in a group setting, how they're handling all those transitions throughout the day, how they are following the rules, how quickly they're learning things, and what things are hard for them in group care that might not be hard for them when they have one-on-one attention in a different setting. So the reason it should be the teacher is because you all know unique things about children. You have a lot of training and education about young children that most parents don't have, and you have that to bring to the conversation. What you don't know is what children are like outside of your classroom. So parents know things you don't about what they're like in the community, about what they're like at home, about what their relationship is like with them outside of pickup and drop off, which you don't get to see. So those two pieces coming together are crucial for this conversation about, is there something that this child needs that the two of us can't give him? And what is that? So as we're thinking about these hard conversations, what we want to do first is reflect on what's our goal for this conversation? What do we want to get out of this? And often when I ask that question, teachers say, I just want him to get speech therapy. I just want him to get a speech eval, or I just want him to get some extra help. I just know that he needs it. I know what he needs, and I just want the mom to do it. And so they often have gone into the conversation with an idea of what the solution is that has missed the opportunity to really partner with the parent about what the problem is. So what I think that if I asked all of you, we would all agree is that what our goals are is to help the child. We want to figure out, what does this child need that he's not getting right now in my classroom? What more could help him and me and mom and dad? How can I help this child? But we also want to think about, how can I help this family understand this child? How can I help this family face this stressful thing that they may not see the way I see? And we want some relief. We want things to get better for ourselves. Often when you have a child in your classroom that you're worried about, you dread seeing that child. You dread coming to work for the stress that it brings into your work life. And you feel guilty about that. And so the compounded guilt and worry and stress makes it really hard to think about how to talk to the parent in a compassionate way. So we've got to think about the conversation with the parent has to go in such a way that it reduces your stress, doesn't make that stress worse. And ultimately what you're asking the parent for is, I need some help. I need somebody who knows something I don't, because I've tried all my tricks. I've tried to figure out what he needs and give him what he needs, or she, and I haven't figured it out, and I need some more ideas. So we're not going to linger too long on this slide because we want to focus on what to do, but there are some don'ts. One of the things don't do is don't do nothing. Don't just sit with this worry and take it home with you every day and let it burn you out, because that will happen. And it may have happened to you already. That worrying and being frustrated is very hard to sit with. It's not good for your soul. It's not good for your heart. It's not good for your body. So think about how to help yourself get over that hump of doing nothing. And then think about, what's the something I can do that will make things better? And so you're going to get a copy of all these slides to have things to remind you of. And also the handout in your email has a lot more detail. I'm not going to go to that handout now because I know you have it in your hands, and it's something that you can review with your co-teacher or your director to think about how it applies to the situation you're in. One thing I want to highlight here is in big red letters, don't jump to conclusions about what the problem is or label the child. Often it's really, it seems like something, you know exactly what it is because you had a child like that last year and she was just the same way, or you had a child of your own. And it feels like this child reminds you of your own child. But we want to ask you to hold off on that, because that can both be a mistake of that you get it wrong, and also can really push the parent away when you move too fast into deciding what the problem is. Debbie?
All right, so now that we know what not to do, now we're going to talk about how do we do this? So the important thing is always remembering to, if you're not sure, talk to somebody about it. You know, that whether you're talking to your director, a peer, calling Equipped, so, you know, but you're asking, saying, okay, this is what I'm seeing. And I'm trying to figure out how to bring this up. So make sure that you're okay, because nobody knows it every time. Absolutely making sure and thinking about, how am I building ongoing my relationship with this family, so that when I've got to talk with them about something that's hard, they know me already. They know what I've been giving feedback on. They know the kinds of things that I'm noticing and you know, talking to them about their child, so that they know who you are and you've got that connection with them. A lot of you said one of the things that you cared most about and you enjoyed about what you do was your relationships with people. And that's exactly it. It's that relationship. You know, when you're talking with the family, the thing that you want to help them do is see what you see. Like Ennis brought up and mentioned, they're not sitting in the classroom with you, so they don't see how 10 of the other kids can do a couple of things that this one child just struggles with. And so it's all about helping them see what you see. But as Anna said, it's not about fixing it. It's about helping the parent decide what they want to do next. And thinking about what is it that they might want to do in terms of next steps. Keeping in mind that not everybody has the same priorities. Not everybody has the same concerns. And as we're thinking about, for example, families from different cultures than our own, that some families are more comfortable carrying their kids around until they're 3 years old. So having an 18-month-old who's not walking by themselves, that's just not as big a deal to them as it is to you, their teacher, who's trying to get them moving around the room and they want to be picked up all the time. So just thinking about what the differences are in the cultural expectations and what their priorities are. That is going to be one of the things that, as you're having these conversations, and when you're having the conversation too, make sure that it's always going to be helpful to have examples and be able to give the parents some real data, some information. So it's not what you feel is happening, but you can give them some real examples of what those concerns are. Again, helping them see what you see. That's what that part is all about. And knowing that that relationship you have with the child is one that's going to be able to help them learn new skills, but partnering with the parent is going to help figure out what that's going to look like and how that's best going to work. Okay, we're going to have you guys practice now. If you could, is there anything else you wanted to add, Ennis?
Yeah, we have a few more minutes. So yeah, I just want to, thinking about what to say and how to say it. One of the things I've seen a lot of teachers jump a little too quickly to just sign the paperwork so we can make this referral. We just need to I think this is what he needs. And what will happen if you have trust with a parent is they'll sign the papers. They'll say, okay, sure, if you think so. I don't really see it, but if you're worried about it, sure. But what I have seen over and over happen at the next step when a professional says, okay, mom, tell me what you're worried about, that the parent often says, I'm not worried. It's the teacher who was worried about it. I don't really know. She said it was something that he wasn't doing, but he's a boy. His brother was the same way. I think he's going to grow out of it. So the professional then isn't able to offer the service in many cases, because many services, rightfully so, are driven by what the parent needs and what the parent wants. And so even though you felt like you got the parent's yes, the yes was a yes if you think I should, instead of yes because I understand why, and yes because I'm worried too. So I think we've got to work towards the goal of the family saying, now I see, and now I understand, and I want help for my child. Because otherwise the next step, you'll get frustrated. They'll come back to you and say, yeah, the doctor said not to worry about it, or the person I talked to said, why don't we wait in 6 months and see what happens? And you'll feel like, I got the parent to do something and it didn't work. And that's because they weren't really ready to take that step, but they felt like it was what they should do for you. And also often what happens in that moment between you and the parent about the decision, when they go back home and tell grandma or dad or auntie, they say, what are you talking about? He's just like you were at that age. So involving the whole family and giving people time to process what your concern is and think about how might it affect him in kindergarten? Why am I worried at age 1 about this? Why does it matter? Because people don't know what we know about child development. They don't know that when kids aren't talking by age 2, that means something. And there'll be tons of stories in families about, oh, he's just like so-and-so, or it'll grow out of it, or he's just a boy. All those things I'm sure y'all have heard that will counteract what you have shared if you didn't get the family to really see the picture. So I always say that if the first conversation you have about a problem results in paperwork being signed and a referral being made, that's kind of red flaggy for me. That means, we might have gone a little too fast on that one. That in the long run, that child needs that parent to be an advocate for him or her. And that parent will be a much better advocate if they can say, yeah, his 2-year-old teacher told me that he was having a hard time with that. And so I know he needs extra help. So I'm going to fight for him to get that extra help in all the systems that he's going to need it in. As opposed to the teacher said he needed it. I'm not sure he needs it. If you guys think he needs it, go ahead. So the real difference in how you approach it and how you value that experience of the parents understanding and really accepting what's often really hard to accept as a parent is there's something with my baby that he needs extra help. That's hard to accept, especially for parents who've had a bad experience in the system of special education. We have many parents who felt stigmatized and felt different and felt like they were treated badly because they had a special need. And so the last thing they want is for that to happen to their child. So exploring that kind of stuff with families about what's your other experiences been with asking for extra help? How has that been for you with your older children or yourself or your brothers and sisters? That goes such a long way to help the family really think through what am I ready for? What does my child need and what am I ready for? And how do I feel supported by this teacher in taking a next step, not the next step this person wants me to take? So I think it's a tough moment in those situations to figure out how to handle those times when a parent is telling you kind of just tell me what to do, just give me the paperwork, to hold off and say, I'd like to help, let's make sure we both are thinking about what the problem is before we start talking about solutions.
Because I can go on my other laptop, Debbie, if you need me to do that, and I can grab
That's okay.
Yep, I got him.
it. Okay.
Welcome back. While we're waiting for everybody to come back, does anybody have something to share from that experience that they learned or noticed? We have our observers who want to-
it's
Go ahead.
always, even though, we pretty much, we do it all the time, I guess, on a regular, but every time you have to still do it, it's hard. It's not something, because not all parents want to hear it, or even if what we feel as teachers, we feel like we just know it all and we just we just know it. And so for some parents, they might have their walls, their guards up anyway, because, like you said, with past experiences, whatever. But I thought it was hard, even though Miss D made it, comfortable for me to talk to her, because I did the role as I was the teacher, she was the parent. We didn't have an observer, but we still, so I just felt like she made me feel real good, like, that she didn't have a problem. And I let her know that I wasn't the expert. I'm just a regular teacher. So, but I did show her my concerns about her son, Billy. And she was, and she shared some personal information to me about her husband had just had a divorce. So that might be some reason why Billy is not responding now. He seems like, because I was telling her he seems like he's shutting down. So I can't really say what he don't know or what he does know, because he's shutting down. And I don't, even though at 3 years old, we still have these guidelines that we have to say what the child, where he's at now and where they need to be. And you don't want to say he don't know it, but at the same time, he's displaying that he doesn't know, because when you ask him, certain things, he doesn't, respond correctly. So, and like I explained to Miss D, I don't want to be in a classroom and just sweeping under the rug and say, oh, hopefully the next teacher catch it.
Right.
Because he's 3, he's 3, old Leo. You would just be quiet and let him play now, and then let the 4-year-old teacher catch it. So, but I appreciate Miss D. She was very outgoing parent and very positive. So I would love to have all her children.
If only it was always like that, right? If Dee could be everybody's mama.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I love what you're talking about too, is how the emotional experience for kids and stuff that's going on at home can affect their development, right?
Mm-hmm.
And can affect how they act at school. And if we don't have those conversations to find that out and create trust, so that when we open the door, we hear the real deal, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that trust takes time. There's no reason for a parent to trust us just because they met us. They need to. We need to earn that trust.
Mm-hmm.
And when we do, we get all kinds of stuff about what's going on at home that is sometimes hard to sit with, but does tell us why we're seeing some of the stuff in the classroom, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Tracy was very good too, because she started off with a positive and how she, enjoyed working with my son, and that he was, the bright spot in her day. And then she went into her concerns. And then afterwards, once I shared my personal story with her, she said she was glad that I shared, and that we were going to work on this together, and she's going to be happy to assist me with the next steps. So.
Love it. See, positive experience.
Miss Tracy, are you still in High Point?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do you notice me, L'Oreal? We was in a meeting together.
Oh, we were. Oh.
And just when I needed childcare, early childhood, that's where you are?
Yes, ma'am.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
We thank you guys. We thank you guys for taking that time, and I hope you all had as good of an experience of practicing these conversations. What we just asked you to do is something you can do at work. You can do it with your co-teacher and say, I want to talk to this mom next week. Can we practice? Can you pretend to be her? And the good thing about a co-teacher doing that is that co-teacher knows that parent and can be her, the real her, right? And can say, this is what I think she might say, or this is what I think she might do, or I think her mama needs to be there, right? Or I think she might need to do this on the phone instead of by Zoom, or vice versa. So think about who in your life can help you prepare for these hard conversations, and really think about what you just did as a way to practice and prepare for the big conversation. We put some things in the chat for you to see as some questions for you to consider as you're preparing for the conversation of sharing what you've observed, what your concern is, what you've tried, because we want parents to know that we're not just throwing up our hands. We've tried some things, and we want them to know what those are. And then what does the parent think about that? Before we kind of steamroller them and talk too much, we got to pause, ask, what do you think about that? Have you seen that too? Do you know what I'm talking about? Or do you know what I mean? That kind of stuff. So really not, sometimes we can say a whole paragraph when we should have just said a sentence or two and then paused. So think about if you're one of those folks who talks a lot or talks a little, and how to prepare for this conversation, knowing that about yourself, being self-aware. So I'm going to let Debbie tell us, I know we don't have a lot of time left, but let's talk about some of the resources in your community that you can reach out to for help.
So Guilford is really pretty lucky. We really do have, it might not feel like it sometimes, but we do have a lot of options in our community. I want to tell you a little bit about the Children's Developmental Services Agency. So the CDSA, you may have had a child who had an individualized family service plan in your classroom and had a speech and language pathologist or an occupational therapist or a PT coming in. One of the things that we have developed more recently is more parent supports. And we actually have behavioral health therapists on staff now. So a lot of folks don't think about the infant toddler mental health. They don't think about behavioral health and therapy and counseling for those birth to 3. We've got people on staff now who can do that. And obviously, as we have talked about, you are getting the total package. These are folks who are trained on working with the parents along with the child and really helping build those relationships. And I was going to talk to you about all kinds of things that Ennis already mentioned in terms of the referrals that we get and things like that. But we are part of the Exceptional Children's Services Program. So the same rules that apply in school age applies to us. So not every child is necessarily eligible for our services if they don't have a significant enough delay. But we take referrals from everybody, and we help the parent decide if we're for them, and if not, there's other people. CC4C. So Guilford County Health Department has folks who can help follow high-risk kids. You guys know Equipped and Bringing Out the Best, available to come out. Jennifer Anderson, an amazing woman, can come out and help with those younger kids as well. And then we have other places in the community like Healthy Start and Parents as Teachers that are really focusing too on the full family and the parent. There are a couple of behavioral health folks in the community that do younger kids, but it's very few. So a lot of times we're really looking at how to support the family and the parents. We also have services over 3. So if you can go to that next slide, has services for kids over 3. The pediatrician, always a great place to start if the family has a good relationship. But again, we've got CC4C who's able to help out with monitoring kids. The Guilford County school system is responsible for those 3 to 5-year-olds. Once they transition from us, we transition them to the school system if they have continued delays. So they are a bit behind right now due to COVID, but we heard some good news that they're catching up and able to move forward. So in the community, we also have other therapists, and for folks who are not sure where to go, If they have Medicaid, going through Sandhills, the managed care organization, is going to be really helpful. But some of them may have insurance. And if they have private insurance, their insurance is going to be able to help them with that. And like we had for the younger kids, we also have those programs supported by the partnership, Equipped and Bringing Out the Best. And then with Guilford Child Development, we have the Healthy Social Behaviors folks. So we have lots of different opportunities. The thing to know is not necessarily which one do I have to pick, as much as knowing that there are supports. And if you go to your go-to people, whether it's Nicole, whether it, whoever it is, that there are some supports in the community. We also have Ready for School, Ready for Life, which is really working hard on a navigation system, which means that they are going to have the ability to help parents along. It's not in place yet, but we're really looking forward to that coming within the next year or so. Okay, the next slide. So there is a lot of information out on the internet. These are reliable resources that are going to have good information about a variety of development and expectations. The one on the bottom, the Easter Seals, that actually has a link to a developmental screening that is one of the best. So the Ages and Stages questionnaire is a great screening tool, and that Easter Seals link is going to have the ability for you or parents, so you can always refer to parents to go ahead and go there and they can do a screening. The other thing that's not on here that it just occurred to me is some people have heard of Triple P, the Positive Parenting Program. The Positive Parenting Program is free to all families in North Carolina online right now. So that is another resource that we need to be aware of, that when families are struggling with behavior, that they can think about. So there's also needs to be resources for you to take care of yourself, and Ennis is going to talk about those.
So we hope you've already heard of the Help for Healers helpline that North Carolina set up specifically first for during the beginning of the pandemic, only for healthcare workers, which is why it's called Help for Healers. And the second group they opened it up to was people who provide childcare. And they didn't change the name because you guys are healers too, right? We have a lot of kids with a lot of stress and a lot of needs that every day you're not just educating them, you're helping them heal from things that may have happened before you met them or outside of your classroom. So that phone number, we want you to write it down, and Nicole's going to send you a link for this flyer as well, because we want people to use that phone number to get the help that you deserve for free 24 hours a day. When you're up to here with the level of stress you're experiencing and you need to talk to somebody, we want you to have somebody to call. And then the other number is for people who are not in the field of health or childcare, or they just opened it up to K through 12 teachers as well. They get a different number. So we get a special number, and I want to make sure you have it to refer to so that if you need it, it's there for you. Here it is again. You may recognize some of these as flyers you've seen. And we know we're ending with you tonight kind of in the middle of this conversation. And so we hope you will take advantage of all the resources that Nicole is providing you by email, but she's also offered to mail you some of these things. If for you getting things by email doesn't work and you don't have access to a printer, or you're frustrated with the links not giving you what you need, we've sent some really good resources, especially those ones that are called tips about self-regulation. They're very specifically for teachers of infants, toddlers, and preschoolers about how to help kids manage behavior and manage stress. And they'll be really helpful to you, I think, if you have them in your hands when you need them.
Thank you for viewing. Make sure to visit the Equipped website and Facebook page frequently for updates.